Hey, hello guys, Sherifa here. So in this video I'm going to show you guys how to export different properties. So here we have a number, you could put it anything there. Here I have a range number that goes from 0 to 256. Could do a string, could do a Nodepath, and we could also have a bool and a dictionary where you could specify anything you want there. And then we have a resource. This is just a plain resource. Could grab anything from the window from that's available in Godot. And I have a custom resource. I'm gonna go over how to create one. It's just the same as creating custom nodes. And then we have an example scene to load a pack scene. So let's go do a quick load. And here, and then if I run the scene, we could check what it is and instance it. And here we have it instance in here, and it says node is a sprite 2D. And I'm gonna show you guys how to print in the command line as well. So let's get started. Before that, remember to like and subscribe, and let's get into it. Alright guys, so in the last tutorial I pretty much exported the speed for this, so we're gonna pretty much do that for the number again. So let's create a different class, and we're gonna just make it based off a node. So let's create a new file, and we're gonna call it properties export header file, and we're pretty much gonna import a node. So this is gonna be based on a base node, class properties and public node, and GD class properties and node. Simple enough. What's going on here? Oh, remember we are using namespace Godot. So we're gonna have a public int number, and then an int range number. Then we need a properties constructor and destructor. Then the getters and setters for both the number and range number. We need both of these to create the class. So now we need to create a bind methods. Let's put it up top here. So protected static void bind method. Alright, now let's create a CPP class. Call it these export. Alright, so same setup as before. So include the properties header using namespace Godot, and this is for the first set number here. So we have the setter and getter, and then we assign them here. Export the base number from the previous tutorial. Now for the range number, we set the same things as usual. You set the range number and the functions addresses, but in the add property, say add property info parent int, then ranged number. Now we need to tell it to have a range. So you say property hint range, and then in a string you pass how you want it to work. So we want it to go from 0, then a comma, then we want it to do to 256, then a comma again, and then we want to set its steps. So we're gonna step by 1. So if you were doing a float, you could put 0.1 here, or 0.01, and so forth. Then we want to pass in the set range and get range number functions strings here. All right, close it out. Let's do the initializations. Properties export dash properties export, then properties export tilde properties export, and to destroy. And we're gonna just set the number here to 0 initially, and then range number to 0 as well. Now we need to go into the registry CPP file, and we need to register that class. So we first need to include it. Call it properties export header. Then we could just register this class here. So GD register class, and then properties export. All right, and that should be it. Now let's compile it with cons again. All right, clear, and we could check that out. All right, we forgot one crucial thing. We need to actually define the functions. So let's go back down to over here. So now I just pasted them in. So don't want to bore you, just set in the numbers, set in number to number, or get in number, and then set in range number or get in range number. Let's load the properties export we have here. Type it in if you didn't do it already. There it is, bottom of the list. We can load it up, and there we go. We have a number we could do anything with, or the range number that's up to 256. Okay, let's continue. Next, for a string, all we need to do is include Godot's string class, include Godot CPP variant string, create a string, then set its header is create its setters and getter. Then over in the properties export, pretty much do the same thing. Get set string, pass the string reference property, then set it, then getter here. And only difference here is we're using variant string, and then the name of the variable, and then the functions. And if we compile again, nope, don't compile again. Now let's define the functions. We just set in string, get in string, and then assign. Now we could compile and run again. There you go. Now we have a string. Now we could give it a default value, but I left it blank. Let's go back here. Say string equals some string. Now for Notepad, we need to import a Notepad, include a Notepad variant, and we could just create a Notepad. So Notepad, Nodepath, define a setter and getter. Now define its notepads here, the functions, and back up top we register that properly. Now we set the functions as usual, and now the variant is just of a notepad. Alright, now we can compile again and back over in Godot. Now we have a notepad that we could select any node with. Now for a Boolean, let's create a bool, getter and setter, register the classes, the class functions, add the property, and variant type of bool, pass in the same bool, and get and setter and getter. Remember, set it first, then define the functions. There you go. Now we have a Boolean. For a dictionary, we need to import a dictionary. Alright, I think you get the drill with these ones. Set variable, register properties, define functions. Compile. Now we have a dictionary. Guess what I'm going to import next? A resource. So import resource. Now the difference with resources is that you have to use them as a reference. So you need to use Godot's ref class and then pass in resource inside of it. And then let's just call it res, getter and setter. And it's under ref as usual. And in properties export, define its functions, set res and get res. And it's same ref counted here again and return. Now for the functions, define them as usual. Then we want to add property, and then property info exec again. And the variant type is an object, because an object is just something in memory. So next we want to tell it what the type is, what's it called. So it's just res. Then we need to pass an int to Godot that it's a resource. So property hint resource type, and then as a string set resource. Then just pass in the set and get res functions and close it off. And now we have a resource that we could load, and this is any of Godot's resources, or even custom ones that would be in there. Alright, so let's do a custom resource. So in order to do a custom resource, it's pretty straightforward. You just create a new class. Let's call it custom resource. Make that a header file first. And now we need to include resource, and that's on the Godot CPP classes resource. Now we define a resource. So we call class, create a class, custom resource that extends resource. Kind of like how you do it in GDScript. Remember to encapsulate this in namespace Godot. Keep forgetting that. Then we just need to just say GD class, custom resource, and resource. Now we're just gonna use a simple value here for this tutorial. So int custom res number and constructor destructor, setter and getter for that custom res number, and then the required bind methods. And let me put a header guard in here. Now let's create a CPP. Same as usual, custom resource header using namespace Godot, bind methods, define these, and then we do constructor and destructor, and that's gonna be it for that resource. Now we need to go into the register again. So register CPP. We need to register that class as well. So let's include that resource, include custom resource, that header, that h. Keep in mind, header h or HPP doesn't matter really much. It's just a C thing that came over. Now let's go here, GD register class and custom resource. Save that. Now in our properties export, we need to register that custom resource. So let's first include it here. So include custom resource, that header one, and all we have to do now is create another ref to it. Ref custom resource, and let's call it custom res. Save, and in the properties export, let's define those. There you go. Then define the function here. The functions or add the property. Alright, so only difference is now we have a property hint resource type, custom resource instead of regular resource. And then we define all its functions as usual. Now save and sconce over in Godot. Now we have a custom resource here. You could either call it from here, and now we have the one number that we can manipulate, or we could create it as a resource over here. Resource, we call it custom resource. Here it is right now. And the my res, and now we have it in here. Here it is. Okay, now for a pack scene. Let's go back into VS Code. Let's go to properties export. Need to now include pack scene. Define pack scene. Remember, our pack scene is also a resource, so it needs to go in a ref. Now define setters and getter. Now we need to register the property. Alright, so same as usual, variant type, and then resource type, pack scene. That's the difference. So we could save, we could run that again. Okay, so now we have pack scene, example scene, I mean. We could load a scene. Quick load. I have this sprite here. This is just a sprite in a scene. And I have a 3D node in a scene. Could always load on. Now I'm gonna show you guys how to load the scene at runtime or inside the editor. So let's go back in code. I'm gonna do this on ready. So I need to override the onReady function. So in the properties export H, let me put it maybe right here. Say void ready and override. Then we define that in the properties export. Let's put it under this one. Ready. That's a void. Okay, so how do you instance? So we need to first make sure it's a node. So that's gonna be the base type of everything in Godot. So node, and it's gonna be a pointer. We'll call it an instance. Pointer instance. Then we want to say example scene. That's a scene we're loading. Then dot slash. Remember, it's a reference, so we need to point to the reference and tell it to instantiate. All right, and that should be it. Then we could check if it's what type of node it is. So we could say if type ID of the instance pointer. So you dereferencing it right now. So instance is equal to type ID, and we need to get a sprite 2D here. Sprite 2D. This is just an example. So, and because we want this, we have to import it here. So just sprite 2D. Save that. Sure, we get this sprite 2D. We want to use a utility function. So to use a utility function, let's import that. So say include Godot TPP, and we want to see, I think it was under variant and utility functions. What this does is give us the ability to print to the console inside of Godot. So if it is equal to it, we want to say utility functions and dash the or colon print, and then we could just say node is a sprite 2D, and then else you want to say utilities functions print node is not sprite 2D. Okay, so now we just want to add a child, and then that's the instance. We could say add inst print, could ask the instance to get his name, so we say dot slash or get name. One other thing though, you want to make sure this example scene isn't a null pointer, else it will crash. So we have to go back here, say if example scene equals null pointer. You just want to return to prevent the crash. All right, now let's compile this. Now if we go here, could quick load. Remember I said I know this is a sprite, and if we run the scene, there you go. So we're saying node is a sprite 2D, and it prints its name. It's the same name in the actual scene. So you could look over here. There it is, SPR. Then if you try to load another one, quick load the 3D scene. Save and run again. There you go. Node is not a sprite 2D. That's just one way to check if you want to have a specific resource loaded. Could do a try catch with that. Okay, that should be the end of the tutorial. Remember guys, like and subscribe. I really love making these videos. Take care and see you in another one. I'm gonna add some comments to the source code, and I'm gonna have it uploaded to GitHub. So remember to check in the description for that. Take care guys.